The last resort. High Admiral Zixtal of the Collective stood before the Emergency Council, their crystalline form reflecting the dim light of the chamber. The latest projections of the Void Plague's spread filled the massive holographic display behind them, a web of purple tendrils slowly consuming the galaxy's spiral arms. "We have lost contact with the Centaurian sector," Zixtal announced, their voice modulated to remain steady despite the gravity of the news. "That makes 17 sectors in 8 standard cycles." The assembled representatives of the Collective's member species shifted uncomfortably in their environmental suits. Each had evolved in carefully controlled conditions, perfect worlds with stable temperatures, consistent gravity, and carefully balanced atmospheres. The Void Plague cared nothing for their perfectly engineered existence. "The quarantine protocols have failed," continued Zixtal. "Our best minds cannot explain how the plague adapts so quickly to our countermeasures. It's as if it learns from every attempt we make to stop it." Chief Researcher Vilera, a being of pure energy contained within a sophisticated matrix, pulsed with agitation. "We've tried everything in our database, every known biological defense, every technological solution. The plague simply evolves faster than we can respond." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Collective, with all its advanced technology and carefully cultivated species, was losing to a force they couldn't understand. Their perfect worlds had become their perfect prison. "Not everything," came a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Dr. Nix, a junior xenobiologist, stepped forward. Their environmental suit was marked with the distinctive patterns of the Deep Science Division. "Explain," commanded Zixtal. "We haven't tried the impossible world," Nix said, activating their own data projection. The blue-green planet appeared in the center of the chamber. Classification: Deathworld. Designation: Earth. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Deathworlds were forbidden zones, planets whose conditions were so extreme that the Collective had long ago declared them off-limits. No intelligent life could possibly evolve in such chaos. Surface gravity: 9.8 meters per second squared. Temperature variations of over 150 degrees. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most species. Active tectonic plates. Regular natural disasters. Extreme biodiversity, including numerous pathogens. Nix listed the conditions with growing excitement. "These conditions are unsurvivable," interrupted Vilera. "Why waste our time with?" "Because something did survive," Nix cut in. "Something evolved there. And not just survived, thrived. They call themselves humans." The hologram shifted to show cities built in disaster zones, settlements in frozen wastes, submarines in crushing depths, and spacecraft pushing the boundaries of their world. "Their biology is remarkable," Nix continued. "They possess adaptive immune systems unlike anything we've cataloged. Their bodies don't just fight disease, they learn from it. They get stronger from stress. They can survive massive trauma, regenerate damaged tissue, and adapt to almost any environment." Zixtal moved closer to the hologram, studying the images of humans going about their lives in conditions that would kill most Collective species instantly. "How is this possible?" "Because they evolved in chaos," Nix explained. "While our ancestors engineered their worlds for perfect stability, Earth forced its inhabitants to adapt or die. The humans are the ultimate survivors, and they might be our only hope against the Void Plague." The chamber erupted in argument. Making contact with a Deathworld species was unprecedented. The risks were enormous. But as another alert signaled the loss of yet another sector to the plague, Zixtal raised their crystalline appendage for silence. "How do we contact them?" "That's the interesting part," Nix said, bringing up a new set of data. "They're already reaching for the stars. They've developed primitive FTL theory. More importantly, they're aware they're not alone. Their culture is filled with stories about meeting alien life. They're ready for contact." Zixtal studied the data for a long moment. The Void Plague had already consumed a quarter of known space. Their perfect worlds were falling one by one. Perhaps it was time to embrace imperfection. "Prepare a first contact team," they ordered. "But understand this. We do not approach as conquerors or teachers. We approach as supplicants. The children of chaos may be the only ones who can save us all." As the council chamber emptied, Nyx remained, watching the hologram of Earth spinning slowly in the darkness. On its surface, billions of humans went about their lives, unaware that their evolutionary heritage, born of catastrophe and forged in chaos, might hold the key to saving the galaxy. Children of calamity. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her lab at the Global Disease Research Center, staring at the alien delegation through reinforced glass. Their environmental suits gleamed under the harsh laboratory lights, a stark reminder of just how different they were from humans. The collective's representatives couldn't even breathe the same air as their hoped-for saviors. "You're saying this void plague adapts to every countermeasure?" she asked, reviewing the data scrolling across her tablet. The information was overwhelming. Hundreds of failed attempts to stop the plague, countless worlds lost, billions of lives extinguished. "Correct," replied Dr. Nyx, their translator converting complex harmonic frequencies into English. "It behaves unlike any pathogen we've encountered. It seems to learn from each attempt to destroy it." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. Like cancer cells developing drug resistance, but at an accelerated rate. She pulled up another file. "And you've tried everything in your medical database?" "Everything," confirmed Vilara, their energy form pulsing with frustration inside their containment matrix. "Our most advanced biotechnology, our most sophisticated treatments. Nothing works for long. The plague adapts faster than we can develop solutions." Sarah walked to a different display, this one showing human immune response patterns. "Tell me about your species' immune systems. How do they typically fight disease?" The aliens shared uncomfortable looks. "We don't typically," Nyx admitted. "Our ancestors engineered our worlds to be free of pathogens. Our immune systems are primarily vestigial." "What?" Sarah turned, shocked. "But that's incredibly dangerous. How do you handle new diseases?" "We prevent exposure," Vilara explained. "Our environmental suits, our habitat sanitization, our quarantine protocols, all designed to prevent contact with potentially harmful organisms." Sarah ran her hands through her hair, a habit when she was thinking deeply. "So you've essentially removed yourselves from the evolutionary arms race against pathogens. No wonder this plague is devastating. You have no natural defenses." She brought up a new display, this one showing the history of human disease and immunity. "Look at this: smallpox, bubonic plague, influenza, HIV. Humanity has faced countless plagues. Each one killed millions, but each time some survived. Those who lived passed on their resistance to their children. Our immune systems evolved, adapted, grew stronger." The aliens watched in fascination as she showed them electron microscope images of human immune cells attacking pathogens. "Our bodies don't just fight disease, they remember it. Every infection we survive teaches our immune system new tricks. We pass these improvements to our children, who face new diseases and develop new defenses. It's an endless cycle of adaptation." "But the cost," Nyx said softly. "The deaths." "Evolution isn't kind," Sarah agreed, "but it made us strong. Look at this." She pulled up her own medical scans. "See these markers? They show I've survived dozens of different pathogens. My immune system has been trained through countless battles. Every human carries similar marks. We're all veterans of a war that never ends." Vilara's energy form flickered thoughtfully. "This is why you can survive on your death world. Your species never stopped evolving, never stopped adapting." "Exactly," Sarah said. "Earth throws everything at us. Diseases, disasters, climate changes. And we adapt. Those who survive pass on their advantages. It's brutal, but it works." She turned to face the delegation directly. "But here's what fascinates me about your void plague data. Its adaptation rate, its behavior. It reminds me of something we've seen before. The aliens leaned forward. What? Cancer. Sarah pulled up comparison data. Cancer cells evolve within a single organism, adapting to overcome the body's defenses and medical treatments. The void plague is doing the same thing on a galactic scale. It's not just a disease. It's evolution weaponized. The laboratory fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective had spent millennia trying to escape evolution's cruel arithmetic, engineering perfect, stable worlds. But in doing so, they'd made themselves vulnerable to anything that could still evolve. We'll need samples, Sarah said finally. And we'll need to understand exactly how this plague evolves. But more importantly, she looked at each alien in turn. You need to understand that any solution we find will have a cost. Evolution always demands a price. What kind of price? Nix asked. Sarah's expression was grim. The same price humanity has always paid, change or die. If we're going to help you fight this plague, the collective will have to learn to adapt again. No more perfect worlds. No more engineered stability. You'll have to embrace the chaos that forged humanity. As if to emphasize her point, a distant rumble shook the laboratory. Just a minor earthquake, the kind of regular geological activity that had helped shape human evolution. The aliens startled in their environmental suits, while Sarah barely noticed. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "Let's see if we can teach you how to survive." Crucible of stars. The laboratory complex beneath Geneva had been transformed. Where once stood a handful of research facilities, now sprawled a vast network of interconnected chambers, each maintaining different environmental conditions to accommodate both human and alien researchers. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the main observation window, watching their latest test unfold. Inside the chamber, a sample of the void plague, carefully contained within multiple force fields, consumed a block of specially prepared biomatter. Beside it, a culture of modified human immune cells waited like soldiers before battle. Trial 247 commencing, announced the AI system, releasing immunological countermeasure. The force field between the samples dropped. Sarah held her breath, though she'd seen this same scene hundreds of times over the past months. Behind her, the alien delegation watched through their own specialized interfaces, their various forms of consciousness focused intently on the microscopic war about to unfold. At first, it seemed to work. The engineered immune cells, based on human genetic templates but enhanced with collective technology, attacked the plague organisms aggressively. Through the quantum microscope, they could watch as the cells engaged their enemy, breaking down the plague structure. Initial effectiveness at 94%, reported the AI. Plague reproduction rate dropping. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. This was further than they'd gotten before. The previous 246 trials had failed within seconds. Wait, Velura's energy form pulsed with concern. Something's changing. On the quantum display, the plague was morphing. The surviving organisms were rapidly restructuring themselves, incorporating aspects of the human immune cells into their own matrix. Within moments, they weren't just surviving the attack. They were turning it back on their attackers. Containment breach imminent, warned the AI. Initiating emergency protocols. Sarah slammed her hand on the purge button before the computer could finish its warning. The chamber filled with plasma hot enough to reduce everything inside to its constituent atoms. Another failure. "I don't understand," Nick said, their environmental suit whirring as it processed their agitation. "The human immune response is more robust than anything we've seen. How can the plague adapt so quickly?" Sarah stared at the now empty chamber, her mind racing. "It's not just adapting," she said slowly. "It's learning. Every time we attack it, it doesn't just evolve to survive. It incorporates our weapons into itself. We're literally teaching it how to be stronger." The realization hit the alien researchers like a physical blow. Their perfect worlds had made them vulnerable, but even humanity's hard-won resilience wasn't enough. The plague wasn't just evolving faster than they could respond. It was using their own evolutionary advantages against them. Perhaps, came a new voice. We're thinking about this wrong. Dr. Marcus Webb, a geneticist who'd been quietly analyzing data in the corner, stepped forward. His dark skin was covered in a fine sheen of sweat. The environmental systems were struggling to maintain Earth normal conditions with all the alien technology running. What do you mean? Sarah asked. She'd worked with Marcus before. He had a habit of seeing patterns others missed. We keep trying to fight the plague with our strongest weapons, he said, pulling up genetic sequences on the main display. But look at this. Human genetic diversity data from across Earth's populations. The display showed an intricate web of variations, mutations, and adaptations from different human populations. Every human population faced different challenges, Marcus explained. Different diseases, different environmental pressures. We didn't survive because we were strongest. We survived because we were diverse. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. No single solution. Exactly, Marcus nodded. When a disease hit one population hard, others might have natural resistance. What killed people in one region barely affected those in another. Our strength isn't in having the best defense. It's in having many different defenses. Velura's energy form brightened with excitement. The plague adapts to overcome whatever fights it. But it can't adapt to everything at once. Sarah finished, already rushing to her console. We've been trying to create the perfect weapon against it, but that's exactly what it's best at defeating. We need to hit it with everything at once. Thousands of different immune responses, each slightly different. The computational requirements would be enormous, Nix warned. To model that many variations. Then we don't model it, Marcus said. We use real human genetic diversity. Millions of years of evolution have already done the work for us. We just need to understand how to apply it. Sarah's fingers flew over her console, pulling up data from human genome projects worldwide. Every population that survived a major disease outbreak, every adaptation to extreme environments, every quirk of immune response, it's all written in our DNA. We don't need to create the perfect weapon. We just need to understand our own history. For the first time since the plague appeared, hope began to rise in the complex beneath Geneva. But as the researchers dove into their work with renewed energy, Sarah couldn't shake a growing concern. The price of this solution, if it worked, would be higher than anyone had yet realized. The collective would have to change, yes, but humanity might have to change even more. Evolution's price. The United Earth Council chamber was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from every nation sat shoulder to shoulder with alien delegates, their environmental suits creating a strange counterpoint to human business attire. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her presentation displayed on the massive screen behind her. The solution works, she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. In controlled trials, our multi-vector approach overwhelms the plague's ability to adapt. It simply can't evolve defenses against thousands of different attack vectors simultaneously. The room should have erupted in celebration. Instead, a heavy silence fell. Everyone had read the full report. They knew what implementing the solution would cost. High Admiral Zixtel stepped forward, their crystalline form catching the light. Please explain to everyone what this means in practical terms, Dr. Chen. Sarah took a deep breath. To defeat the void plague, we need to introduce human genetic diversity into the galaxy's biosphere, not just as a treatment, but as a fundamental change to life itself. Every world, every species, every ecosystem will need to incorporate aspects of human adaptability. You're talking about rewriting the genetic code of entire civilizations, one of the Earth representatives said, of all life in the galaxy. Yes, Sarah admitted. The collective spent millennia engineering perfect, stable worlds. That stability is what makes them vulnerable. To survive, life needs to be able to change, to adapt, to evolve, like humanity has always done. Dr. Marcus Webb stepped up beside her. But there's more, he said. The process won't just change the collective's worlds. It will change us too. He brought up new data on the display. The genetic templates we'll use will create a bridge between all sapient species. Over time, the boundaries between human and alien biology will blur. We'll become something new. Something neither human nor collective, but a synthesis of both. The chamber erupted in voices. Some raised concerns about losing human identity. Others worried about the ethical implications of such widespread genetic engineering. The collective representatives debated the religious and philosophical aspects of embracing chaos after eons of pursuing perfection. Sarah watched the debate unfold, remembering something her grandmother used to say: "Change is the only constant in life." How true that was turning out to be. High Admiral Zixtal raised their appendage for silence. "There is another factor to consider," they said. "Our deep space probes have detected something troubling about the Void Plague's origin." New images appeared on the screen. They showed the edge of known space, where the plague had first appeared. But now, enhanced and analyzed, they revealed something more. "The plague isn't natural," Zixtal continued. "It's engineered, created by someone, or something, as a weapon against precisely the kind of stable, predictable civilizations we built." The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. Sarah's mind raced with implications. "A test," she whispered, then louder. "It's a test." All eyes turned to her. "Think about it," she said, stepping forward. "The plague doesn't just kill, it forces adaptation. It's not trying to destroy life. It's trying to change it, to force it to evolve." "But who would do such a thing?" someone asked. "Why?" "Perhaps," Marcus suggested, "whoever created it saw the same thing we're seeing now. That stability, while comfortable, is ultimately a dead end. That life needs challenge, needs change, needs evolution to remain strong." Sarah looked out over the assembled representatives of humanity and the collective. "We face a choice," she said. "We can try to maintain our separate identities, our comfortable existences, and watch as the plague consumes everything we know. Or we can choose to change, to evolve, to become something new together." She brought up an image of Earth, beautiful and chaotic, next to pictures of the collective's perfect but sterile worlds. "Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology or our intelligence. It's been our ability to adapt, to change, to become something new when we need to. Now we're being asked to share that gift with the galaxy. But gifts have prices." The room was silent as the choice before them sank in. To survive, humanity would have to give up its unique place in the galaxy, becoming part of something larger. The collective would have to abandon millennia of careful engineering and embrace chaos. Both would have to trust in evolution's endless dance of change and adaptation. "Time is running out," Zixtal said softly. "The plague approaches Earth's sector. We must decide." Sarah looked at her hands, thinking of all the generations of humanity that had faced similar moments of change or die. Every time, some had chosen to adapt, to evolve, to become something new. Those were the ones whose descendants lived to face the next challenge. "Perhaps," she said, "this is what we've been evolving toward all along." Legacy of the Deathworlders. 1 year after the decision that changed the galaxy, Sarah Chen stood in the observation dome of the collective's primary research station, watching the transformation of a world below. What had once been a perfectly engineered garden planet now roiled with the controlled chaos of evolution in action. "The process is spreading faster than we predicted," Dr. Nix said, their environmental suit now significantly modified from its original design. Like everything else, it had needed to adapt. "Life wants to evolve," Sarah replied, touching the transparent dome. Her own body showed subtle signs of change: enhanced cellular regeneration, improved oxygen absorption, slight modifications that came from working closely with alien biology. Once we remove the barriers, it naturally seeks new forms, new possibilities. The main display showed data from across the galaxy. Green zones indicated regions where the modified human genetic templates had been successfully integrated into local biospheres, creating the diversity needed to resist the Void Plague. Red marked areas still under threat. Yellow showed zones in transition. 87% of collective space has been converted, High Admiral Zixtal announced, entering the dome. Their crystalline form now contains swirling patterns of organic material, a visual representation of the changes affecting all life in the galaxy. The plague's advance has been halted in all modified sectors. But victory had come at a price. Earth itself had been changed, its carefully preserved biosphere now incorporating elements of alien biology. Humans were slowly developing new abilities, while aliens were gaining human traits. The clear lines between species were blurring, creating something entirely new. "We've detected something interesting in the outer sectors," Marcus said, joining them at the window. He brought up new sensor data. "The plague. It's changing too. Not just adapting to attack us, but transforming into something else." The images showed plague organisms incorporating the new genetic diversity into themselves, becoming part of the evolutionary dance rather than trying to dominate it. "It's as if," Marcus continued, "once we proved we could adapt, it stopped trying to force us to." "A test," Sarah mused, remembering their earlier hypothesis. "Not to destroy us, but to ensure life in the galaxy never stagnates again." She turned to Zixtal. "Have we heard anything from the probe we sent toward the plague's origin point?" The High Admiral's form shimmed, their equivalent of a nod. "The data is fascinating. We found evidence of other galaxies, other civilizations that faced the same test. Some failed, becoming extinct. Others passed, evolving as we are now. So we're not the first," Marcus said softly. "Just the latest in a long line of civilizations forced to choose between comfort and survival." Sarah walked to another window, this one showing the vast space station they now called home. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their differences still visible but no longer barriers. Children played in the recreation areas, some human, some alien, some in between, all part of the galaxy's new future. "We didn't just survive," she said. "We showed the galaxy a new way to live. Not in perfect isolation, but in beautiful, chaotic harmony." Nyx moved to join her, their suit whirring softly. "The children of the Deathworld taught us how to embrace life in all its messy glory. Perhaps that was humanity's true purpose, not to conquer the stars, but to help them dance." In the distance, a ship emerged from FTL Travel, one of the new hybrid designs, incorporating both human ingenuity and collective technology. Its crew would be as diverse as the galaxy itself, ready to explore whatever wonders waited in the chaos of space. "What do you think we'll become?" Marcus asked, watching the ship dock. 1,000 years from now, when all these changes have worked themselves out." Sarah smiled, thinking of all the generations that would follow, each facing new challenges, each adapting in their own way. "Whatever we need to be," she said, "that's the gift of evolution. The future is never set, never perfect, always becoming something new." High Admiral Zixtal's crystalline form caught the light of 1,000 stars. "And that is why we will survive," they said. "Not because we are strong or advanced or numerous, but because we finally learned what humanity always knew, that life finds a way, not despite chaos, but because of it." Outside the window, the changed planet spun serenely, its surface a testament to the power of adaptation. It was no longer a perfect world, but it was alive with possibilities. And in the end, that was what mattered most. The Deathworlders had taught the galaxy how to live, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.